So hey guys, and welcome back to the video. And on today's video we're actually out test riding the Triumph Speed Twin. This is the 1200, the one I've been waiting to arrive, having tested most of the Bonneville range. This was the elusive one that could never get hold of. So stick around, stay tuned, we'll be right back. So welcome back guys, and we're out on the beautiful Triumph Speed Twin. Like I say, I've been wanting to get hold of this bike for some time now, and finally we have it for 10 days. So I'm going to be riding this as much as I can to try and get my best feel and thoughts for this bike, and also come up with a final video which will give my good, bad and final thoughts on this. So stay tuned for that. That'll be in about a week. So as you can see, I've got all of the winter riding gear on. It's about 4 degrees today, actually sunny, which makes a change. Got rid of all of that rain, and we're wearing my RST adventure jacket today. Also I've got on my my textile trousers, got my RST Thermatech heated gloves on. They'll keep my hands nice and warm, and they're battery operated, and they're from RST also. So yeah, it was good to throw a leg over the bike this morning. One thing I noticed initially when I got on the bike was that it felt quite small, and that's in comparison to, say, the T120, which is a little bit more stretched out. This bike is a little bit more compact. Also the seat height, while it is about 19mm higher than the T120, I think on the T120 Bonneville you sit more into it, but they're kind of two different bikes. So where the T120 is more of a classic, this one is more of a sporty Bonneville, and I'll show you through why that is basically in the spec look around a little shortly further down the road. So one thing that they do share between the T120 and the Thruxton and the Speed Twin is that wonderful parallel twin 1200cc high torque engine. And while this bike is about 3 horsepower down on the Thruxton, the actual torque figures, with it having 112 newton meters of torque, is exactly the same as the Thruxton. So plenty of power. And what I came to realise when I was mentioning those figures and looking them up was that my MT10 SP from Yamaha, the Beast, only has 111 newton meters of torque. So this has 1 newton meter of torque, and also this is lower down in the rev range at something like 4,250 RPM, whereas the Yamaha is at 7,000 RPM. So while my Yamaha has 160 bhp and this has a lot less, and I'll go through that shortly, when you actually open the throttle you can feel the torque is pretty similar, and it feels pretty similar to the MT10 SP. So there you go, you've got an 11 grand bike with as much torque as 160 brake horsepower Yamaha MT10. Surprising, huh? But yeah, that motor in this bike, the parallel twin 1200 high torque engine, it's had some bits reworked from the Bonneville engine. The crank, I believe, is lighter, so it spins up quicker. Also that's in the Thruxton. So yeah, absolute stonker of an engine. One thing I notice on the clutch lever and the brake lever is that they're both fully adjustable for span. And I actually love the Bonneville range because the clutch bite is quite close into the bars and you get a really good, nice feel from it. And I noticed when I was out on the MT10 at the weekend, mine is really far out, so I much prefer the clutch action on this bike. Now, if we ever get past this tractor in front, we can start to open her up. I'm hoping he turns into this farm just here, but probably not. The throttle on this bike, as with all of the Bonneville range, is one of the best that I've come across. Really smooth, great bike for blasting around the lanes, commuting, even doing some trips on it, although it's a little bit too small, but you can get luggage racks and panniers and all that kind of stuff. Triumph do a really good job of accessories for this bike. One thing I'm also very happy about is that it's got the standard Bonneville switchgear on. Nice and tactile and really easy to use. Riding modes, it's got rain, road and sport, and we're in sport full fat mode just today. It's got a lovely gear indicator, odometer, fuel gauge, and the typical how many miles left in your tank, which I think is brilliant on a bike. All the standard information you need, very basic. Yes, it's got 3 riding modes, but it's got those lovely clocks that you get on the T120 Bonneville, and also the Thruxton. Very much nice looking, very much Swiss watch style effect on the screen. Now while some like it, some don't, I think they look really great, and I actually wish they'd put these clocks on the Scrambler XE and the XC rather than the same one that's on the Rocket 3. I think these clocks would have suited that bike a lot better with it being a retro style Scrambler. Okay, bit of dual carriageway up to about 60 miles per hour, and the wind blast, obviously it's a naked bike, so you're going to get the full force of the wind. Just get through this water down here. There's no point me telling you what it's like other than it's clean air, and there's no buffeting around the helmet area or anything like that, but there's a bit of pressure on your chest, so you get that with every naked bike. Mirrors on the bike, some of the best Baron mirrors, with them being Triumph. I do like the Triumph ones, even though they're a little bit more expensive than others on the market. They're really well made. Handling, well, I've not managed to get up to any kind of speed yet to see what the handling's like, but after we do the tech walk around just in a minute, we'll get out on some twisty roads free of traffic and I'll tell you what my thoughts are there. So we're just down at our favourite little place, which is Pine Lake. We're going to go down next to the lake and show you this bike properly. Seating position, very upright, not cramped at all, and also the seat is really comfy. It's quite a thin seat, and also it's a bench seat, so good for pillions as well. Although I've heard that the rear shocks, and I'll show you those shortly, are not really up to carrying pillions, so you might need to upgrade those. So beautiful day down at Pine Lake here. Water looks very inviting at the Water Sports Centre just ahead, but I bet it's bloody cold. Okay, so here she is, the new 2021 Triumph Speed Twin. Just give you a price summary of it. So you can get it in 3 different colours. This being the red, you can get a jet black and a matte storm. The jet black version is £11,000, £11,200 for the red or the matte storm. The engine, as I mentioned, is from the Bonneville range, the T120 and the Thruxton. You just have to excuse the noise in the distance. Got some workmen working away, if you can hear that. And the engine produces 98.6 bhp at 7,250, and the torque figures, like I mentioned, were 112 newton meters, which is very low down at 4,250 rpm. Wheels on the bike, these are the new cast alloy wheels, 17-inch wheels, multi-spoke, as you can see just there. And also they've got Brembo brakes. These are the M50 calipers on the front, so an update from the last year's version. These are 4-piston on 320mm floating discs. And then on the back you've also got a Nissan caliper. This is a 2-pot Nissan underslung, and that's on a 220mm disc. The seat and the seat height on this bike, you're looking at 809mm, and the seat's pretty comfy. Like I say, it's a bench seat, so plenty of room for a pillion. It's quite slim at the front, so it does feel quite thin. Not sure how it is on a long ride, but I'll tell you that in the final thoughts and good and bad video. What else have we got? Tyres, you've got a 160 on the back, and then you've got a 120 on the front. And these are the Metzeler Racetech RR tyres, so they're quite a sporty tyre. So changes from last year's bike to this year's bike, being the upside down forks, and also you have the M50 calipers. So a couple of tweaks, and also the engine's had a tweak. The engine in this, like I say, is the 1200 high torque, and this engine has been reworked. It's got a lighter crank so it spins up quicker, and a few different tweaks just inside eke out a little bit more torque and power from the motor. So the fuel cap's a Monza style fuel cap, same as the Thruxton. Like I mentioned, you've got fully adjustable levers, a Brembo master cylinder and a Brembo reservoir on the front. Headlights on this, You have a standard bulb headlight with LED running lights. You've got LED indicators front and rear. Slip and assist clutch, so the clutch is really light and smooth. And they've changed the exhaust pipes this year. What they've done, they've actually put different end cans on, and they've put the black metal ends on. Now, I'm not a lover of these, I have to say. I much prefer the earlier version where they were just all brushed stainless steel. The bike does come with a cat, but like most Bonnevals, you can see they've hidden it underneath the engine, and it looks like straight through pipes. So great bit of work on the styling just there. Build quality, so as you can see here, we've got an aluminium front mudguard. Nothing's plasticky around on this bike, it's really well built. Again, on the rear you've got the aluminium mudguard. You have a tail that sticks out a little bit. You can get a tail tidy for these that really tucks it underneath and makes it look nice. The rear brake light indicators are on top there. They're quite small, they look quite nice too. The rear suspension. Now, these are twin shocks on the rear, and as you can see there, they're just preload only. Not the best shocks on the back. I think I'd be upgrading those, try and do some accessory ones. If you were to carry pillions or any heavy luggage on the back of this bike, then that's maybe something you consider. Front forks, these are Marzocchi or Marzocchi 43mm, and they have 120mm travel, and these forks are non-adjustable, as you can see just there, but they feel pretty good. I'm 95 kilo, I'm 6'2", and the ergonomics of the bike fit me quite well. As I say, the seat height is really low, so 809mm. It's good for shorter riders or even up to 6'2", just like me. The tank is 14.5 litres, and also it's 55 mile per gallon. So you probably get about 186 miles to a tank on normal riding. So the bike itself weighs 216 kilograms, and also you get a 10,000 mile service interval. Somebody asked me the difference actually between this bike and the Triumph Bonneville T120, and basically they're both £11,000. So the seat height on this is 809mm, and then on the T120 it's 790mm. So this is 19mm higher, but you do feel like you sat more into the bike on the T120. Brakes are different, so this has got better brakes on this one, being the M50. So the T120's still got Brembo brakes, and they're very good. Power between the two, you got 98.6 bhp on this one, and 78.9, so you got a 19 horsepower gain from the T120 to the Speed Twin. The Speed Twin, as I say, is 216 kilograms, and the T120 is 236, so the T120 is 20 kilos heavier. So which do you go for? T120 being more classic, or the sporty version, which is the Speed Twin? So I'd just like to say a huge thanks to all those that bought me a coffee last week from the Buy Me a Coffee link, which is in the description below. Pop you on screen just here just now. Thank you very much, much appreciated. All goes towards a tank of fuel or a coffee stop on the way while we're making these videos. Huge thanks again to those guys. And what we're going to do now, we're going to just leave Pine Lake, and I'm going to take you out on this bike and show you what it's all about. So an absolute lovely crisp day up in Lancashire. Lovely, just nice being next to the water here. So what we'll do when we get down the road just here is we'll do our turn test just around this mini roundabout and see what the turning radius is like on this bike. I'd imagine it would be pretty good. And then we'll get on to some twisty roads and see what the handling's like on this bike. Roads have just dried out, which is nice. And on the Metzler tyres, super sticky. So, turning circle. Very good. Not even on full lock. Okay, let's get to it. See what the acceleration's like. Should be good. Yep, she pulls like a train. Like I say, 112 newton meters of torque. More than enough power for any man. So the suspension on the bike, even though it's non-adjustable on the front, you don't get much dive. I think they've reworked the innards, but they are very good. That clutch action is absolutely lovely. Brakes stopping power is superb. Obviously you've got ABS and some form of traction control, but you have 3 riding modes: rain, road and sport, which we're in today. So the brakes on this bike are really 1-2 finger braking. A lot of confidence in them. It's not so long ago that the M50 was on the top sport bikes before the Stylema calipers came out. But yeah, I think you get a lot of bike for your money. I mean, 11 grand, yeah, 11 grand's a lot of money, we know that. But if you compare it to some of the other bikes on the market, to get a premium brand bike like the Triumph, you really get a lot of bike for your money. Could it be your own e-bike? Yes, it could. It would pretty much do everything. I would even take this to the south of France. The only thing that is a downside, and one of my subscribers pointed this out to me, was that there's no cruise control on this bike, whereas on the T120 you do get it. I'm not sure if the Thruxton had it or not. I'll check on that. But it would have been nice to have got the option at least, or the optional extra, to put the cruise control on this bike, which you actually can't. So that's one thing that's missing. I think all of the 1200cc range of the Bonnevilles should have had the cruise control put on, because in 6th gear on a motorway you can really eat up the miles, and it would have been nice. The question is, would I take this over the T120 or a Thruxton? For me, I like the seating position on this and the T120. The Thruxton is a little bit forward and a little bit of pressure on your wrists. I think this bike, I will like it more as I start to ride it more. Lots of bikes out today. Good weather's bringing everyone out. So I think initially, after riding this bike for the last hour, I would probably take the T120 over this. Even though the BHP is a little bit down on the T120, it's more than enough power for the road. The torque figures, this has 1 newton meter of torque more than the T120 at a similar RPM, so feels pretty much the same from this engine. To be honest, I can't feel that little bit of horsepower gain unless you really pin the throttle, and then you feel it take off. So think of brake horsepower as being top speed. Think of torque as being getting you from, 0 to that speed, and how quickly it pulls you there. So the torque figures are great. The tank does feel a little bit thin in between my legs in comparison, but 186 miles to a tank on normal riding is not too bad on one of these. I wish my MT10 would get the same mileage, to be honest. But yeah, that suspension, front and rear, is very nice. The rear preload is set probably about in the middle, so it's probably perfect for my weight currently. But it would be nice to, if you own this anyway, to upgrade the rear shocks and get those a little bit better. The noise from the engine is superb. So I actually prefer the exhaust on this than I do on the T120. If I was to get a T120, I would swap the end cans. That would be the first mod I would do, just to get the burble that you can get from this engine. It really is a lovely motor. Now, I've not ridden the old Speed Twin, and like I said, the only difference between them, it really is the tweaks on the engine a little bit, and the suspension. I do like the upside down forks on this. on the T120. You've got the standard forks with the gaiters, but if you wanted a real modern day classic with a bit of sportiness, then the Speed Twin is the one to go for. Now, as a second bike, what would I go for realistically? Well, you know that the Scrambler XE really blew me away, and with me being a taller rider, that really was a lovely classic Scrambler. So far in the whole Bonneville range that I've ridden, from the Street Twin, T100, T120, Speed Twin and the Scrambler XE, the T120 as a second bike alongside the MT10 really does fit just now. So, rear brake, I'm feeling the ABS kicking in. I know we're on damp roads just now, but it's a little bit intrusive on the rear. Front brakes, absolutely perfect. So obviously you don't get a quick shifter on this. Most of the bikes with quick shifters that I've ridden, I use the upshift, but rarely the downshift. They are getting better and smoother in the market, but old school bike, old school clutch. So for a first ride, really impressed. What else have you got out there in the market in comparison to this? You've got the Z900 RS from Kawasaki, which I've ridden. There's a video in the backlog of the catalogue. I'll put a link to that just in the right hand side just here. Comparing them both, I'll probably take this over the Kawasaki, but I'm really looking forward to test riding, and it's just about to be launched, is the Z650 RS. I think that will be a very popular bike for them. So we'll head back home now and start editing this video for you guys. But yeah, thanks again for your support to the channel. If you'd like to buy me a coffee, then it's up to you, but we have a link in the description below, and it all helps the channel. So much appreciated, guys. Always I'll give you a mention on the next video. If you're not a subscriber to the channel, then hit that subscribe button, ding that bell for future videos coming up. And I'll see you at the weekend out on the MT10 again. Hopefully a nice ride into the Lake District. Thanks again, and we'll catch you later, guys. Cheers.